There is a kind of tiredness that no amount of sleep can touch. Not the tiredness that comes from a long day of work. Not the tiredness that a good night's rest can heal. This is something quieter, something that has been building for years, maybe decades. A slow, invisible erosion that happens when you spend your life making sure everyone around you is okay, while quietly, almost without noticing, letting yourself fall to the bottom of the list. You know this feeling. You are the one who picks up the phone, even when you are exhausted. The one who remembers everyone's appointments, everyone's struggles, everyone's needs, but struggles to name your own. The one who has learned, over many years, to make yourself small so that others could feel large, to stay quiet so that peace could be kept, to keep giving, even when there was almost nothing left to give. And here is what no one ever told you: that is not love. That is disappearing. Somewhere along the way, without a single dramatic moment, without any decision you consciously made, you stopped being a person and became a function. The helper, the caretaker, the dependable one, the one who never complains, never asks for too much, never takes up too much space. And the world accepted that arrangement gratefully. But you, the real you, the one beneath all those roles, that person has been waiting, quietly, patiently, for someone to finally turn around and ask, "What do you need?" Today, I want to be that voice. More than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha offered a set of teachings that the modern world has almost entirely forgotten, or perhaps never fully understood. Teachings not about detachment from the people you love, not about retreating from life, but about something far more intimate and far more urgent: the radical act of returning to yourself. 7 teachings, each one simple, each one capable of shifting something deep and quiet inside you if you let it. And I want to ask you to stay with me until the 5th teaching in particular, because what you will hear there is something you may have been waiting your entire life for someone to say out loud. Not a command, not advice, something closer to a permission. Before we begin, if something in these words already feels familiar, if you are listening and thinking, "This is me, this is exactly me," leave that in the comments when we are finished. Your story matters, and it may be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Now, find a comfortable place. Let your shoulders drop, and for the next few minutes, let this time belong only to you. That, in itself, is already a beginning. Before we reach the teachings, we need to sit with something first, because the question worth asking is not, "Why haven't you chosen yourself?" The question is, why were you never taught that you could? Buddhism has a word for the patterns we carry without knowing we carry them. Samskara, deep impressions, formed so early and repeated so often that they stopped feeling like beliefs and started feeling like truth. You did not decide to put yourself last. You were shaped that way, slowly, by a world that confused self-sacrifice with virtue. From the time you were young, the message was quiet but consistent. Good people give, worthy people serve. Those who ask for too much are selfish. Those who rest too long are lazy. And so you learned. You learned to measure your value by how much you could offer, how much you could carry, how much you could absorb before anyone noticed you were struggling. That was not weakness. That was survival inside a story you were handed before you were old enough to question it. Today, we question it together. Teaching 1. Reclaim the channel of your own attention. The first teaching is the foundation everything else rests on, and it begins with a simple observation, one that may be uncomfortable to sit with, but that carries within it the seed of everything that needs to change. Right now, in this moment, whose life are you living inside your mind? Think honestly. How many hours of your day are spent thinking about other people, what they said, what they meant, what they might be thinking of you, whether you disappointed them, whether they are okay, whether you did enough? How much of your inner world is furnished entirely with other people's feelings, other people's problems, other people's judgments? For many people, the answer is almost all of it. It is as though the mind has become a house where everyone else has a room, and you, the one who lives there, have been quietly sleeping in the hallway. The Buddha taught something that cuts through centuries and lands with surprising directness in our modern lives. He taught that attention is not simply a resource. Attention is the substance of your life itself. Where your awareness goes, your existence follows. What you attend to, you become. What you ignore, including yourself, slowly disappears. This is the heart of Sati, the Pali word we often translate as mindfulness. But mindfulness is not merely about breathing or stillness. At its deepest level, it is about returning. Returning to this breath, this moment, this body, this one life that is unfolding right now, with or without your presence in it. And here is something the mind easily confuses. Caring deeply about the people you love is not the same as losing yourself inside their lives. One comes from a place of genuine fullness. The other comes from a place of quiet, disappearing, and only one of them actually helps anyone. Think of attention like water. Whatever you pour it onto consistently grows. If every drop of your inner water flows outward toward other people's needs, other people's opinions, other people's lives, then your own interior becomes dry, cracked, a place even you do not want to visit. But when you begin slowly, gently, without guilt to return some of that water to yourself, something shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily. You begin to remember that you are not only a supporting character in other people's stories, you are the author of your own. So the first practice this teaching asks of you is not complicated. It simply asks you to notice. Today, when you feel your mind drifting into someone else's life, their problems, their opinions, their reactions, pause, breathe once, and ask yourself quietly, what do I actually need right now? Not what they need, not what would make things easier for everyone else. What do you need in this moment, in this body, in this life that belongs and has always belonged only to you? That question, asked honestly and repeatedly, is where everything begins to change. Teaching 2. You cannot pour from what is already empty. There is a story that has been passed down through contemplative traditions for centuries, and like all true stories, it is not really about the people in it. It is about you. A student came to his teacher one afternoon, visibly worn. Not the tiredness of a single hard day, but something deeper, the tiredness of someone who had been giving for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to have anything left. He said, "I have helped everyone around me, my family, my friends, those who needed me. There is no one who has asked and I have not answered. And yet I feel completely empty. I feel invisible. I feel as though no one truly sees me." The teacher listened without interrupting. Then he led the student to a small room where two objects sat side by side on a simple table. A vessel filled to the brim with water, and beside it, a vessel completely empty. The teacher pointed to the empty one and asked, "Can you give water from this?" The student looked at it and said quietly, "No, there is nothing there to give." The teacher nodded. "You have been trying to give from that place for months, and you are surprised that you feel like you have nothing left. Sit with that for a moment, not as a story about someone else, as a mirror. How long have you been the empty vessel, still trying to pour? How many mornings have you woken already depleted, already behind, already giving before you have given anything to yourself? How many years have you confused exhaustion with devotion and emptiness with selflessness? Buddhism teaches metta loving-kindness as a practice that begins not with others, but with oneself. This is not an accident of tradition. It is a precise instruction. You cannot genuinely extend warmth outward from a place that has gone cold inside. The light you offer others must first exist somewhere within you. So, what does filling yourself actually look like? Because this is where the teaching must become real, must become something you can touch and practice and return to. It looks like a morning that belongs only to you, before the phone, before the requests, before the world begins its asking. It looks like rest, taken without immediately justifying it to yourself or anyone else. It looks like a conversation with your own silence, however brief, however imperfect. It looks like rediscovering something small that brings you genuine pleasure, not because it makes you more productive, not because it makes you a better caregiver, simply because it reminds you that you are a person, not only a role. Filling yourself is not indulgence. It is maintenance of the only vessel through which everything you love flows. Give from your abundance, not from your depletion, not from obligation dressed up as love, from the place that is genuinely, quietly full. That is where real giving begins, and that is the only place from which it can last. Teaching 3. Your energy is a sacred resource. There is something no one teaches us when we are young, and the absence of that lesson costs us decades. Your energy is not unlimited, and every single day, whether you are aware of it or not, you are making choices about where it goes. Not dramatic choices, not choices that announce themselves. Small, quiet, habitual choices, the kind that happen so automatically you barely notice them happening at all. The choice to replay a conversation that ended hours ago. The choice to worry about an outcome you cannot influence. The choice to carry someone else's emotional weight as though it were your own responsibility to bear. The choice to keep the peace by silencing yourself. Again, one more time. Each of these choices costs something. And what they cost is not abstract. It is the energy you could have used to tend to your own life, your own healing, your own growth, your own peace. The Buddha spoke of right effort, one of the 8 principles he offered as a path toward genuine freedom. And right effort is not about trying harder. It is not about discipline or willpower in the way we typically understand those words. It is about something far more subtle and far more powerful. It is about learning to direct your inner resources consciously, to notice when your energy is flowing towards something that nourishes, and when it is simply draining away into ground that will never hold it. There is also the teaching of the middle way, perhaps the most misunderstood of all Buddhist principles. It does not ask you to stop caring. It does not ask you to become indifferent to the world around you. It asks you to find the path between 2 exhausting extremes, the extreme of giving everything until nothing remains, and the extreme of closing yourself off entirely. Between those 2 places, there is a sustainable way of living, a way that honors both your love for others and your responsibility to yourself. Think of your energy the way you think of something genuinely precious, something finite, something that once spent cannot simply be recovered with good intentions. Every thought you give to something beyond your influence is energy borrowed from your own becoming. Every emotion poured into someone who has shown no willingness to meet you halfway is energy that cannot be used to build something real. This is not cynicism. This is stewardship. This is the quiet wisdom of someone who has finally decided that their inner life deserves the same protection they have always extended to everyone else. Tonight, before sleep comes, try this. Ask yourself one honest question, not with judgment, not with guilt, simply with the calm curiosity of someone genuinely interested in their own life. Where did my energy go today? Did it move me toward the person I am trying to become, or did it simply disappear into the lives and needs and opinions of others? You do not need to answer perfectly. You only need to begin asking. Because the moment you start paying attention to where your energy flows, you begin slowly, quietly, irreversibly to take your life back. Teaching 4. Compassion begins at home. We live in a world that quietly glorifies depletion. It praises the one who never stops. It admires the one who sacrifices sleep, sacrifices rest, sacrifices their own needs without complaint, and calls that admirable. It has built an entire mythology around the person who gives until there is nothing left, and then finds a way to give a little more. And somewhere inside that mythology, a damaging belief took root. The belief that caring for yourself is something you do after everyone else has been cared for. That rest is earned, not needed. That your own needs are somehow less urgent, less valid, less real than the needs of the people around you. Buddhism has always known otherwise. The tradition speaks of 4 qualities that together form the foundation of a genuinely compassionate life. Metta, loving kindness; karuna, compassion; mudita, sympathetic joy; upekkha, equanimity. And in every one of these teachings, the instruction is the same. You begin with yourself, not as an afterthought, not after you have finished with everyone else. You begin there, because that is the only place anything real can begin. This is not a modern reinterpretation. This is what the Buddha actually taught. The Dhammapada, one of the oldest and most beloved texts in the entire Buddhist tradition, carries a line that has survived 25 centuries because it holds something undeniably true. You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection, not more than others, not at the expense of others, as much as, equally, fully, without apology. Consider this, honestly. A physician who has not slept cannot operate with steady hands, not because they lack skill, but because the instrument through which their skill flows has been neglected. A parent who has abandoned their own emotional life cannot model wholeness for their children. They can only model endurance, which is not the same thing. A friend who has nothing left inside cannot offer genuine presence. They can only offer the performance of presence, and eventually, even that becomes impossible to sustain. This is not a moral failure in any of these people. It is simply the nature of vessels. Empty ones cannot give what they do not hold. And now the thing this teaching most needs you to hear. That tightening you feel when you rest without earning it first. That quiet guilt when you say no, when you choose yourself, when you allow a need of your own to matter. That is not your conscience speaking. Your conscience knows the difference between selfishness and self-respect. What you are feeling is an old story. A story written for you long before you were old enough to edit it. Old stories can be released, gently, without drama. One quiet choice at a time. Caring for yourself does not diminish your love for others. It deepens it. It makes it sustainable. It transforms it from something you perform out of obligation into something you offer freely, from a place that is genuinely, durably full. That is not selfishness. That is the most responsible thing you can do for everyone you love. Teaching 5. Focusing on yourself is not selfishness, it is wisdom. This is the teaching I promised you at the beginning, and I want you to receive it not as advice, not as instruction, but as something closer to what it actually is. A permission, one that perhaps no one in your life has ever clearly, directly, and wholeheartedly given you. You are allowed to matter to yourself, not after everyone else is settled, not when the circumstances are finally right, not when you have earned it through enough sacrifice, enough patience, enough years of putting yourself last. Now, as you are, without condition. There is a confusion that has quietly shaped the way an entire generation understands what it means to be a good person. The confusion between selfishness and self-care, between taking and tending, between ignoring others and simply, finally, not ignoring yourself. Selfishness is building your comfort on top of someone else's suffering. It is taking what belongs to others, diminishing those around you in order to elevate yourself. That is a real thing, and it causes real harm. But that is not what we are talking about here. What we are talking about is something the Buddha placed at the very beginning of the path, not at the end. Not as a reward for sufficient spiritual progress, but at the very first step. Know yourself, not others, not the world. Yourself, your thoughts, your patterns, your genuine needs, the places where you are wounded, the places where you are quietly, unexpectedly strong. Because only the person who knows themselves can live with any real honesty, and only the person who lives with honesty can offer anything genuine to the world around them. So let me ask you something, and I want you to answer it not with what sounds right, but with what is actually true. What do you need? Not what would make you more useful, not what would make you easier to be around, not what would finally earn you the approval you have been quietly seeking for years. What do you genuinely, simply, humanly need to feel at peace inside the one life you have been given? Perhaps it is time that belongs to no one but you. Perhaps it is the freedom to move through a single day without explaining your choices to anyone. Perhaps it is something you set down quietly years ago, a passion, a practice, a part of yourself and never went back for, because there was always something more urgent waiting. Whatever it is, you are allowed to want it. You are allowed to pursue it. Not someday, not eventually, now. There is a particular weight carried by those who grew up in an era when self-sacrifice was not simply valued, it was identity. To need things was weakness, to ask was burden, to rest was laziness wearing a comfortable disguise. But wisdom, real wisdom, knows that a person who tends to themselves does not take from others. They simply stop pretending they need nothing. And in that stopping, something remarkable becomes possible. They become real, fully, honestly, presently real. And from that realness, not from the performance of strength, not from the exhaustion of endless giving, genuine love finally has somewhere to grow. That is not selfishness. That is the wisest thing you will ever do. Teaching 6. When you change inside, the world responds. There is a teaching in Buddhism that is easy to misunderstand and even easier to dismiss if it is explained carelessly. That the world outside us reflects the world within us. When people first encounter this idea, they often react with reasonable skepticism. It can sound like magical thinking, like the kind of thing printed on a decorative pillow rather than drawn from genuine wisdom. If I simply feel peaceful inside, does that change my difficult relationships? Does it resolve my financial worries? Does it make the people who have hurt me suddenly kind? No, it does not work that way, but it works in a way that is, in some respects, more profound. The Buddha was not a mystic disconnected from ordinary human experience. He was a precise and careful observer of the mind, of how inner states shape perception, color judgment, influence behavior, and ultimately determine the quality of every encounter we have with the world around us. When you are at war with yourself, depleted, resentful, quietly convinced that your needs will never be met, you bring that war to every room you enter. Not intentionally, not because you are difficult or broken, simply because the lens through which you see everything has been clouded by a tiredness that goes all the way down. And this is what the teaching of karma actually means. Stripped of all the mythology that has accumulated around it over centuries. Not punishment, not cosmic reward and consequence. Simply this: actions arising from a depleted, contracted, self-abandoned place create different outcomes than actions arising from genuine peace. The quality of what we bring to our lives shapes the quality of what our lives return to us. Think of a specific day, one you can actually remember, when you were genuinely rested, when you had given yourself what you needed, when you had slept well, spent some time in your own company, moved through the morning without immediately surrendering yourself to everyone else's demands. How did you speak to the people you loved that day? How did you listen? How much patience did you find available, not forced, not performed, but simply there, like water from a spring that had not run dry? Now think of the days when none of that was true, when you woke already behind, already giving, already somewhere other than yourself. How did those days feel from the inside? How did your relationships carry the weight of your depletion without either of you fully understanding why? The difference was not the world. The circumstances may have been nearly identical. The difference was the state of the interior, and the interior, unlike the circumstances, is something you can actually tend to. This is what it means when Buddhism teaches that the outer world responds to the inner one. Not magic, not wishful thinking. Simply the quiet, verifiable truth that a person who has stopped abandoning themselves shows up differently to their relationships, to their work, to the small, ordinary moments that make up the texture of an entire life. You do not change the world by conquering it. You change it by becoming someone whose presence adds something real to it. And that becoming begins, always, from the inside. Teaching 7. Become your own first commitment. We have arrived at the final teaching, and I want to offer it to you gently, not as a conclusion, but as an opening, because everything we have walked through together today has been building toward this single, quiet, life-changing understanding. You are allowed to come first. Not at the expense of the people you love, not in place of your responsibilities, your relationships, your genuine care for the world around you, but first in the sense that matters most, as the foundation, as the ground from which everything else in your life either grows or fails to grow. Buddhism teaches that all things are impermanent. Anicca, the truth that nothing stays, nothing holds its shape forever. Everything we cling to eventually changes or disappears. This teaching is often received as something sorrowful, as a reminder of loss. But there is another way to receive it, a way that, for those of us in the later chapters of life, in our 50s, our 60s, our 70s and beyond, carries not grief, but a particular and luminous clarity. Time has a texture now that it did not have at 30. The years feel different, more precise, more weighted with meaning. And that is not a reason for urgency or anxiety. It is an invitation, perhaps the most important invitation you will ever receive, to stop postponing yourself. It is not too late. Those 4 words may be the most important ones in everything we have discussed today, because the voice that has kept you living for others, kept you small, kept you perpetually last on your own list, that voice has likely told you, in quiet moments, that the window has closed, that it is too late to change, too late to choose yourself, too late to build a life that includes, genuinely and unapologetically, your own needs and your own peace. That voice is not wisdom. That voice is the final defense of an old story that has simply gone on too long. The Buddha began his own path toward awakening in his 30s. Many of his most devoted students were elderly. Wisdom, in the Buddhist tradition, has never been the exclusive territory of the young. Think of your life as a structure built over many decades. The relationships, the roles, the commitments, the loves, everything you have constructed and tended and offered to the world. All of it real, all of it meaningful. But underneath all of it, there are foundations. And those foundations are you. Your health, your inner peace, your honest relationship with yourself, your capacity to know what you need and to offer it to yourself with the same reliability you have always offered everything to everyone else. When those foundations are solid, everything built upon them has a chance to last. When they are neglected, when you are neglected, even the most beautiful structures eventually begin to lean. So here, at the end of these 7 teachings, is what I want to leave with you. Not a dramatic resolution, not a promise that everything will transform overnight. Simply 3 small commitments, small enough to begin today, real enough to matter. Begin your morning with 5 minutes that belong only to you. Before the phone, before the news, before anyone else's needs enter the room. 5 minutes of silence, of breath, of simply being present inside your own life. At the end of each day, ask yourself one honest question. Did I exist today, or did I only serve? Not with judgment, with the gentle curiosity of someone who has decided, finally, to pay attention to themselves. And once today, just once, do something not because it makes you more useful, not because it earns you anyone's approval, but simply because it is kind, because you are someone who deserves kindness, especially from yourself. These are not large acts, but they are the kind of acts from which entirely different lives are quietly built. You have spent a long time being everything to everyone. Today, simply be something to yourself. That is where it begins. And it begins now. Before I let you go, I want to tell you something personal. I almost did not make this video. Not because I did not believe in these teachings, but because I was not sure I had truly lived them myself. There have been seasons of my own life where I gave everything outward and left nothing for the interior, where I confused exhaustion with meaning and busyness with purpose, where I told myself that one day, when everything settled, I would finally turn toward myself. That day kept not arriving. And I think that is why these 7 teachings from the Buddha have stayed with me the way they have, not as philosophy, as medicine, as something I needed to hear before I was ready to share it. So if you have stayed with me until this moment, thank you. Genuinely. Today we walked through 7 quiet truths together. That living for others, when it means abandoning yourself, is not virtue, it is disappearing. That you cannot give from emptiness, that your energy is sacred and finite, that compassion begins at home, that choosing yourself is not selfishness, it is the wisest thing you will ever do, that your inner life shapes everything around it, and that it is not too late, it has never been too late to become your own first commitment. One small act, today, not tomorrow. That is all this moment asks of you. If something here touched you, tell me in the comments. And if you are ready to keep walking this path, stay with this channel. There is more ahead, and you deserve every step of it.